Most of us actually know that what is right for us. We do have this innate ability. I think astrology sometimes, for some people who are not very aware, it's a shock for their system when I say that, hey, this is not the thing for you. It's really hard for them to hear. But for some people who are aware, they just smile and say, you know what, deep down in me, I knew that.
Azra, 20 years in corporate America, very left brain, very strategy focused, worked for mid-sized businesses and even Fortune hundreds.
I was struggling with some issues with my son. So my friend said that, hey, consult a Vedic astrologer. I chuckled and I'm like, I'll make her happy. She's a very good friend. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll go talk to a Vedic astrologer. I'm making air quotes. And I did. So he predicted something. And I just, shrugged my shoulders and I was like, sure, I think there is a lot of free will on our hand. And, I'm going to figure this out. Actually, what he said happened. And that put me on that spiral where I was like, whoa, if I could have actually used this information to actually do something about it without the arrogance that I had at that time. Don't make an excuse that, oh, now I can do more because I have to do it myself. Nope. You see how our brain tricks us into thinking these things? And especially with astrology, it can go either way, right? That, oh, Azra, I'm so unlucky. No, it's not that. It's just that now you know, so it's your responsibility to act on it.
Yeah, do something about it.
Yes.
Welcome to today's episode of Influence by Design. I'm your host, Samantha Riley, and today we're going to talk about Vedic astrology and how you can use the energetics of that in your business to grow, to scale, and to make sure that you're perfectly aligned. So today I have Azra with me to guide us through this beautiful topic. So welcome, Azra. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Samantha. I'm so excited to be here.
Now, I would love to give a little bit of context to this interview because I know that you've got an MBA, a CPA, you spent 20 years in corporate America. And when I read all of this, I'm like, this is a little bit different to the kinds of people that I interview that are using more, let's call them spiritual practices or different, kinds of practices besides a straight out strategy that you talk about in an MBA. What was your transition into Vedic astrology?
Oh, yeah, it's ironic actually. So again, as you said, right, 20 years in corporate America, very left brain, very strategy focused, because that's what I did for mid-sized businesses and even Fortune hundreds, right, when I worked for them. And I was struggling with some issues with my son. So my friend said that, hey, consult a Vedic astrologer. I chuckled and I'm like, I'll make her happy. She's a very good friend. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll go talk to a Vedic astrologer. I'm making air quotes. And I did. And he said a lot of right things. And again, we left brain people, we were like, yeah, sure, okay. And he predicted something, which is not in Western astrology. So Vedic astrology is very predictive in nature. So he predicted something. And I just, shrugged my shoulders and I was like, sure, you know what? I think there is a lot of free will on our hand. And, I'm going to figure this out. Actually, what he said happened. And that put me on that spiral where I was like, whoa, if I could have actually used this information to actually do something about it without the arrogance that I had at that time. And after that, I went and I actually studied with a Vedic astrologer in India. I went on this spiritual journey of my own. And then I connected it to business, right? Because your birth chart is like a snapshot, Samantha. Like when you are born, planets were in certain planetary positions and alignment. And that kind of tells you a lot of things that you are prone to. And again, it's not that you cannot do anything about it. You are stuck. It is not like that at all. But it does give you a glimpse of how you think. What are the people you're supposed to serve? What are the things that you will be good in, right? And it's not that you cannot change that, but you can find a lot of low hanging fruits in your birth chart. And when I explored that, it was mind blowing for me. And the fun was when I was able to connect the strategy piece to that spiritual thing, right? And I think that's where the magic happened.
Absolutely. I love all of this. Can you just explain what is Vedic astrology? What makes that specifically?
Yes. So all of us, right? And again, I'm going to, probably give away my age here, but newspapers, remember when we were growing up, we would get like all these horoscopes and in the newspaper. That's Western astrology, right? So that has Greek tradition, that initiated from the Greek traditions. Whereas Vedic astrology was initiated like 5,000 years ago in India, in ancient India. And these people were able to look at the planetary positions with their naked eyes, and they were able to see that how it is impacting, right? And I know I used to say that, how can a planet impact me? Like, seriously, planets are big entities, Samantha. They do impact us. Moon can impact tides, and moon is like this big in the context of solar system, right? So yeah, it initiated in India, and yeah, it basically it follows the path of karma that, based on your ancestral karma or past life karmas, you are born at a point in time when planets are in a certain position. And now you have been given a choice that, okay, based on your past karmas, now you're born like this. And if you do this in life, and if you do good karmas in life, things will be better. And if you don't do that, then things are going to be harder. So if you think scientifically, it is very simple. Based on that, you also get to the predictive piece, which means that, of course, if somebody is born, and I'm going to just give a quick example, if somebody is born on a dark moon night, they do have a tendency to actually think more negative versus positive side of the things. Yes. So there are some planetary positions. So anytime when I'm working with a business owner and I see that, and I witness that, when they talk about this, so they are going to talk more about the losses piece versus the opportunities piece. That is just their tendency. So they just need to have awareness around it. And so I recommend a lot of shadow work to those people. I'm like, do the shadow work, and you are going to actually get more awareness about yourself, and then you can tackle it that way. It's all about awareness for me.
I love that. I had someone explain it to me, and I can't remember who it was I was speaking to, but it was just a couple of weeks ago, and I was saying how I do an energy forecast on our weekly group call with my clients, and that's how we start off. And I said, I was trying to explain it to her, and she said, it actually sounds like you're almost doing like the weather report, so people know whether you take your umbrella today or you take your sun hat today. And I was like, that's a really great way to explain it, because that's exactly what it is. It's not telling you what has to happen. It's just giving you some idea on how you can, move through and make it easier. And it sounds like this is exactly the same thing.
100%. Exactly. I always actually say that astrology is like a weather report. You will not be able to change the rain. The rain is going to happen. That is beyond us. But if you know it's going to rain, you can carry an umbrella, and then you will be protected. It's exactly this way.
I love that. So you help people to align their actions in their business to the stars. What about things like choosing your niche or your niche? Because that is something that holds so many people back.
Yes, because a lot of us have fear of missing out, right? FOMO, especially like, when I work with people, they're like, no, Azra, I can help everybody. I'm sure you see that too.
All the time.
Exactly. Anybody who is building a business, like, I can help everybody. So it's very difficult, right? And also, like, when you're talking about, hey, what are your skills? Where do you feel you can, what areas you feel that can you be a speaker? Can you be a writer? People are like, I don't think I'm good at anything. It's so interesting. So in your Vedic chart, actually, you can see from houses and planets that what are your innate strengths. So I worked with a gentleman like in 2023, and he came from another program where he was supposed to be like, in a speaking group, right? That he can speak and sell through that. When I looked in his chart, actually, he did not have, and he was very well spoken. So I wouldn't have guessed that that's not his thing. But when I looked in his chart, the second house, which is the house of his speech, was actually debilitated. So I asked him, do you have the right birth time? He's like, yeah, it's on my birth certificate. I'm like, okay, that's good. I'm like, so do you really like speaking? And he's like, yeah, I can speak. I'm like, that's not what I'm asking. Like when you go on the stages, right? And he was like, after a while, he was like, actually, you know what? I really hate it. And I feel like, I get chest pains. So he was hiding it. And because he was
Mm.
going with that energy, he was not able to convert anything from a stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, how about writing? Because your house of writing is pretty good. And he just went like, actually, I have a book draft ready, but I don't think anybody will read my book. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so interesting to see that he knew it. He had something written, but because everybody's saying that, oh, you should be speaking, that's the fastest way to grow your business, he was following that path.
Mm.
So he is in the process of, by the time I think this podcast will go live, he will have his book
I love
in
that.
pre-order.
I love that.
Yes.
I think so many of us get caught between heart and logic. Our
Yes.
brain tells us that we should be doing this thing because this is the path to the money. This is the way business is. And we have this disconnect of this is what I really feel like. And then the brain comes in going, yeah, but don't do that. That doesn't make logical sense. So it sounds like you help people to balance that. How do you find that people react, I guess, when it's there in the chart and they can finally go, actually, that's what I've always wanted, because that's what happened there, right?
Yes. A lot of people are, as you said, right? They are following what the world is doing, right? Most of us actually know that what is right for us. We do have this innate ability. I think astrology sometimes, for some people who are not very aware, it's a shock for their system when I say that, hey, this is not the thing for you. It's really hard for them to hear. But for some people who are aware, they just smile and say, you know what, deep down in me, I knew that. So it's actually your connection to the source, how connected you are. The people who are connected and aware, it's easy for them. I'm telling you, they just smile and they're like, yeah, I know it.
Yeah.
And for people who are really like, following the 3D, what's happening, it's sometimes very difficult for them to hear that.
I'm finding right now, as the energy is changing into the new paradigm in 2027, that people are already getting these restless feelings that they want to do a small pivot in their niche. Are you finding that? Because I'm finding a lot of people that have been in business for a really long time are like, oh, it's just not quite right.
Yes. So again, as you said, right, shift. Also, static potential is when you were born, Samantha, right? So that is your innate potential. But planets are constantly moving. So the transit is always happening. So I always worked with men. And then when my Venus period started, 90% of my clients are women now.
That makes sense, right? The beautiful
my
goddess of Venus. Yeah.
And I hate to say that, but I used to actually like working with men because, you're working in finance and strategy. It's so much easier. I never, ever would have thought that I'll work with women and I'll support females. But when the transit changed, it happened. A lot of people, that's why they're like, something is not fitting in. And the first thing that comes to my mind is I'm like, let's check their transit. Did anything change? So the transit can dictate because, we are constantly shifted. We are human beings, right? We are constantly changing. We are not a static people. And that transit has a lot to do with that. Also, you have to understand, right, that is this your calling or you are changing because of external factors? For instance, if somebody's saying that, oh, that coach changed a strategy, so now I need to change. Oh, they are following that niche. I should change my niche. If it's coming from outside, be very careful. If it is actually coming from inside, check the transit and it's okay to pivot.
So you're talking about the transits. Are these the transits are happening all the time, but are there certain years of our age where there are bigger shifts than others?
It depends on the transit. So based on when you were born, your transit periods will change as well. So there are major periods and then there are sub periods, right? So sub periods will bring little changes, but the major period is where things change, where all of a sudden you shift. Well, I'm a very good example from a very left-brained MBA to a spiritual person, leaving little kids behind and going and studying Vedic astrology. So that was a shift. For me, that was a very spiritual period. So, when we see people that, oh, how can you make a drastic change? Because transit will make situation very conducive for you to change.
Mm.
And if you fight it, then you will be very unhappy.
Mm.
But again, people are like, oh, how do I know that this is a transitory change versus a real change? Well, check the transit. And if you cannot check the transit, make sure it is not coming because of external factors. It
Mm.
has to come from within. And then also, I always say that mix the energetics with a strategy. It has to be a combination of energetics, psychology, and a strategy. Think from your brain, but also feel that where is this coming from? Is this calling coming from inside? And then create a strategy.
I love this. This is definitely what I love as well. Let's talk about launching offers, because I don't know a lot about this, but I can see that when the energy is right, that launching an offer or birthing something new, it can be the difference between it's okay and it really, really pops. What can you tell us about that? Is it something to do personally with your chart? Do you also bring in the energetics of the year? I've just asked you a question that's probably huge, but I would love your insight.
No, I would love to answer that, because my people in my incubator sometimes, hate me for that. That Azra, why you're not? It's ready. Why can't I launch? So there are few things, right? So see, for example, let's say it's an eclipse period and we are in a partial eclipse period right now. What happens is that the energy from the sun and moon is different. It's falling, and again, think scientifically, right? It is falling differently on Earth, right? So you will see a lot of events that are happening as we speak, right? You can read it in the news, right? Which means that people's thinking is impacted. Moon is basically your mind and emotions. So people are thinking differently. Eclipse can make people very introspective. So they may not engage with your offer as you would like them to. So I always say that try to avoid launching big launches during eclipse period, because I have tested it myself. Engagement is lower because I really wanted to. I didn't want to blindly believe that. Engagement is low again because people are more introspective versus they are looking for solutions. Because when moon is under that situation, you are not looking for solutions, you are processing it. So it depends on what you are launching, first of all. Secondly, there is an overall impact that yes, if it's an eclipse period, if it's a new moon, people are introspective. When it is full moon, usually people are very overwhelmed with emotions, right? You see that. Most of the people are like, oh, I'm feeling, yeah. So if you are trying to sell something on that day, it's going to be tough, right? And then there is a third layer, that how those planets are in your chart. So if a person is born in full moon, hallelujah, we are good. Right? Like I have somebody who was born in full moon, and when people are, especially in the group call, when people are talking about full moon, she's like, I feel bad that I don't feel bad today. And I'm like, that's fine. You were born on a full moon. She has a daughter who was also born on a full moon. So it's fine. So there is a third layer, that how that planet is positioned in your chart as well, right? If moon is debilitated in your chart, oh, you are going to hate new moon. There will be so many eclipses are going to be tough for you. And when I see those people in my incubator, I'm like, you know what? This time to this time, you're just focusing on creating your curriculum, working on back end of this stuff, right? You're not doing any launches. Don't even take discovery calls. Just lay low and do all the background work, because this is a time to go in the cocoon and just sort things out, basically.
So eclipses are very introspective, not times to make decisions. So once we're in an eclipse or new moon period or full moon period and working through, when are the best times to look at when to launch?
So I always say that, again, look at all three things: energetics, psychology, and a strategy. So when I talk about energetics, it's always the time, which is when the moon is waxing. It's a very good time. So when moon is from shrinking, it's going up, because that is the time when you are thinking bigger, right? That, oh, it's waxing, it's not waning. So that's a very good time to do product launches, right? Also look at in your own personal chart what is happening, right? Maybe the moon transit is great. Oh, moon is waxing, amazing. But some of the other planets' transits are not that good. So that is the energetics piece. Please do not launch in eclipses. That's like a rule of thumb. Don't even go there. So you are tackling the energetics. Then look at the psychology, right? And depending on where most of your clients are, they are in North America, or they are in Australia, or they are in Europe, there is a psychological piece, right? That most people buy in January, right? When the new year starts, right? Around Thanksgiving, things are a little different. So from people's psychology perspective, look at that cycle as well, depending on what you're selling, right? If you are selling a gifting item, Christmas should be your Q4 should be your biggest year. So align your psychology with that as well. And again, the third one is a strategy that based on energetics and psychology, create your strategy around that to get the maximum benefit. So it's not that, oh, if it's new moon and if it's like this, work around that because you should not ignore the psychology and a strategy.
Yeah.
Because people are like, oh my God, if moon is bad in my chart, I don't do anything. No, now you are aware. Now you work around that and create your strategy around that. Don't go in the gloom and doom of like, oh, now I can't do anything. Don't, because that is basically another excuse that you're looking for.
Yes. 100%. Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because I feel that some people can use that as an excuse to get out of something, but it's not. It's if we go back to the weather report, it's not, oh, don't get out of bed. It's like, it's raining today, take your umbrella. It's very different.
Exactly. And so I had a period where I predicted for myself that this is going to be a bad health period. It was a sub period. Thank God it was not a major period. And I did everything I could to take care of my health. I still got what I predicted, but I planned around it. I was like, okay, I have been planning for it. So now I'm going to execute plan B.
I love
You
that.
just don't use it as an excuse because we have so much free will. And
Absolutely.
when we do that, that's actually counted as, if you look at Vedic scriptures, when you do something about it, you are accumulating good karma.
And we want to accumulate more of that, right?
We need more of that, Samantha.
Exactly. Lots more of that. You were talking about overcoming those challenges. You talked about it just then about getting sick, but there's all sorts of challenges that we have in our business. Obviously, a launch not going so well, or having troubles with our team, or even, it can be very frustrating when we can't work things out. So how can we use Vedic astrology to move through these challenges?
So again, it comes back to awareness, right? I was actually looking at a chart this morning and she's a part of the incubator, right? So I was looking at her chart and she's like, this is the 5th VA I am on. So she hired a virtual assistant and it's not working out. So I was trying to actually decode that for her, that her 6th house is not that good, which is basically the house of service and servants. And I'm like, have you ever had this same issue with your nanny? And she was like, oh my gosh, yes. And I'm like, okay, so there is the potential for that, right? 5th VA in 18 months is
that's
not
a
very good number. It's not a very good number. So I said, well, look, there is the tendencies there, right? So again, don't think that, oh, I'm doomed. No, just work around it. Now you create SOPs. So even if there is a high turnover, your VA can go and look at the SOPs instead of you training them. She was like, Azra, I'm tired of training people. But the potential is there that it may actually happen again. So what can you do to mitigate it? Put strategies behind it. Create SOPs, okay? Try to treat them better. Try to do your due diligence before you are hiring them. Maybe try and, do all the Loom videos so that the other person can get up and running quickly. So again, put strategies around it versus saying that why this happens, right? So everything you can see in the birth chart and the tendency and the potential of it. And then there are 2 kinds of potential. There is a static potential and then there is a transit potential. If this was a transit potential, then she would have like turnover for a few months and then it will be fine. But if it is a static potential, there is a chance that this will happen again and again. So for her, it was a static potential. And I just don't like breaking, predictions like that. But I did share with her. So I said, you need to really focus on your infrastructure. Because if there is a potential, you need a strategy for that. Don't make an excuse that, oh, now I can do more because I have to do it myself. Nope. Because You see how our brain tricks us into thinking these things? And especially with astrology, it can go either way, right? That, oh, Azra, I'm so unlucky. No, it's not that. It's just that now you know. So it's your responsibility to act on it. Now, actually, it's a greater responsibility that now you know. It's like if I know that I have issues with my eyes, now it's my responsibility to go see a doctor and get eyeglasses instead of saying that, oh, I can't see. Maybe I'm unlucky that, my eyes are. No, no.
Yeah. Do something about it.
Yes.
Yeah. I
100.
love that so much. And that this is what I love to hear when people are talking about spirituality, because you can see people get really hooked into the story. Oh, no, that's not me. I can't do that. No, it's not the way it works. And for us to be the best that we are, because we're human, we have so much potential. It's about using this information to make a better choice. And I love that you say it's our responsibility. I had Jean Sheehan on the show really early in the year. She was talking about sacred geometry, and she was saying this is the year for responsibility. You really need to take responsibility for yourself. Obviously, we always do, but I really took that on, and this year I've really pushed that to the next level, if that makes sense, and it pays off.
100%.
You're sending
And
your
whenever
message to the universe.
100%. And look, we are, if you, whatever you call it, source, divine intelligence, or universe, whatever you call it, God, doesn't matter. We are all, if that source is an ocean, we are all the drops, right? Ultimately, we came from there, we will be there, we will go back there. So a drop has the potential of the ocean, right? Yeah, maybe it's not that big when you look at it, but at the end of the day, it is the drop from the same source. So we have been given so much free will. And don't ever let, I always say that, don't ever let spirituality be an excuse. Spirituality should make you stronger. It should not give you an excuse to not think about a strategy. That balance is how you balance your karma. Because you are not just creating karma by your action, you are creating it through your thoughts, through your intentions, through your words. So just saying that, oh, maybe it's not like that, or I can't do it, or I'm not good enough, you are creating karma with your words. That's why it's called spellings, right? It's like creating spells. So be very careful. Be very careful when it comes to that. Don't let spirituality or even astrology be an excuse.
Love it. Love it. So how do people find out more about their Vedic astrology? Can they go and get their birth chart somewhere? Do they need to work with someone?
So you can get your birth chart from go to any Indian astrology site, you can get your birth chart. It's about decoding that. Everybody has a different interpretation, right? So for instance, if you're looking for health related thing, go to a health astrologer. I always say that focus, right? My expertise is in the business astrology. I do a bit of relationship astrology, but that's not what I focus on usually. But when I have people in my incubator, I always say that. And they ask about relationships, right? Because our relationships are a big part of our well-being, right? So go to somebody specific and get your chart read, or work with someone. I always believe in expertise. I don't do everything. So I always rely on experts for everything in my life. So yes, the answer is yes, you can get your chart anywhere, but how you read it, I'll give you an example. Venus, right? A very good Venus in one chart, and people are like, oh, this Venus is in this house, which means I'm going to get married this year. And they're like, oh, I didn't get married this year. There are so many other things. Saturn was expecting it. I'm like, if I would have looked at it, I would be like, you are not getting married this year. There is no way you are getting married, because you have to look at 10 different variables. So if you want to look at your chart online, go have fun, but don't make decisions based on that. If you want to make decisions, be it life decisions or business decisions, go get your chart read from somebody who knows or who has studied in the classical way. But if you want to have fun, please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead and look. And, some people just want to see that, where the Venus is, where the sun is. That's totally fine. You don't need an astrologer for that. But don't make life decisions based on that.
So obviously there's all the links below for if people want to connect with you, if they're interested to know
100%.
more about the way that their chart marries with their business, then definitely go below and click that. Now, you've also got something exciting coming up as well, the Business Manifesting Summit. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because that's a big project that you've been working on.
Yes. So in 2017, I decided that, some of my work should always be free, right? And that's where the summits were born, right? Because it's a very good way for me to meet, business besties like you. I just enjoy like meeting people who are in the same space because sometimes it gets very lonely. And then it also gives us exposure to more audience, but at the same time, we are able to share our knowledge freely, right? So this is season 3 of the Business Manifesting Summit, where we have 23 speakers who will be talking about everything from mindset, spirituality, how to find your niche, how to clean up your message, how to use AI, how to price your products, how to package your products, how to create infrastructure in your business, right? We have CPAs joining, we have people joining who have done, who can actually tell you that when and where you should be hiring a VA in your business. So we have all that packaged in 5 days, 23 speakers, and you are, of course, I'm so happy that you are a part of it. And that is happening on October 28th.
Love it. And again, thank you for inviting me. We had so much fun when we were chatting, obviously, and that's why I was like, you have to come on the podcast. You need to share this information because I haven't had anyone speak about Vedic astrology. And to be absolutely honest, before I met you, I'd never heard of it. I don't know where my head had been, but under a rock somewhere, I think, because I hadn't heard of it. And I was like, oh my goodness, I need to know more about this. It's been so awesome to chat with you about that. So all of the links for sorry, Azra.
No, I'm saying it's actually it's actually a best kept secret, right? Like a lot of people don't know about it because a lot of people talk about astrology, but Vedic astrology is very predictive in nature. So I think people just are kind of scared of it as well, right? That, predicting, huh?
So obviously all of the links to connect with Azra, to get your readings, to get your free ticket to the Business Manifesting Summit, everything's down below. So wherever you're listening, please just scroll down and click and definitely connect further. Azra, it's been fabulous to chat with you today. If there was one thing that you want to leave listeners with, either to really, I guess, think about or something to take action about, what would that be?
Balance your energetics with your strategy. We usually see people in 2 camps, right? Either they are hustling and they are all about a strategy, or we see people who are just doing spiritual rituals. You need to marry those 2. That's where the magic happens. You cannot be just in one or the other camp. When you merge these 2, that's where you will see that your business is going to start transforming. It is not this or that. It is this and that.
I love that so much. Azra, thank you for coming on to the show. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.
No, thank you so much.